So what does a bodybuilder and a 500, 600 pound person both have in common? You may think nothing, but by the end of this video, you're gonna understand how closely aligned those two people are. And body dysmorphia is something that we can all, and probably have all suffered with at some point. Now, body dysmorphia simply is, let me highlight it, is a mental health condition where you spend a lot of time worrying about your appearance. Now, going back to the point, what does a bodybuilder do? They spend a lot of time worrying about their appearance. What does a 300, 400, 500 pound? Doesn't even need to be that. Most of us spend a lot of time worrying about our appearance. And in this case, our physical appearance. For years, I suffered with body dysmorphia, both when I didn't look good and when I did. Let's understand and break it down. What is body dysmorphia? Well, as we said, it's a mental health condition where we spend a lot of time worrying about our appearance. Keywords, we spend a lot of time worrying. Well, what makes us worry? It's how we perceive it, not how it actually is. Now, in order for us to understand why we spend so much time worrying about how we look, not wanting to put on a vest, maybe. By the way, I would have never put on a vest, especially on camera, until I started to realize and understand body dysmorphia and what it was doing and how it's manifesting in my life. But we need to understand what causes it. Like, what causes us to spend a lot of time worrying and thinking about our appearance. So I've put here, you'll see that spending a lot of time worrying is the effect. What caused it? What causes us to look at ourselves and think we're not enough? What causes us to compare ourselves to other people, to think our body is not good enough? Well, it's a couple things. Social media. Of course, you turn on your camera, sorry, not the camera, you turn on your phone, we go on social media, we'll go on Instagram, and there is access to people with the best genetics on planet Earth at our fingertips. And we'll normalize a physique that we see and think that it's achievable for everyone. That's not the case. There's never been a time where we've had so much access to people across the world. Even 100 years ago, we wouldn't have a flipping clue what's going on in Brazil. But now we can go on our phones and see. That comes with benefits, but this is one of the side effects. Childhood wounds. Throughout our childhood, we can get picked on for not looking a certain way, or for some problems that we have, or perceived problems of our appearance. It might be our nose, that might be our weight, that might be our eyelid is a little bit crooked. I don't know. But it's something. Us as children, we're evil. We just, you know what I mean? We find a thing and we pick it. Now, if we don't deal with that, if we don't look into that, and we never overcome it, well, just because we grow older, it doesn't necessarily mean that body dysmorphia back then we're not gonna outgrow it. We need to address it. And then the third one is position versus potential. And this is a really interesting one. Where we are positioned versus our potential can create an imbalance, and we'll perceive that imbalance. And what I mean by that is we can sometimes look at ourselves as a lot better than what we actually are. And we can also see our potential and get our potential confused with where we're actually standing now. Potential is great and it's fantastic, and it's great to look at yourself and think, yeah, I know I can do better. I'm going to be in better shape. My biceps going to be bigger. My shoulders are going to be bigger. I'm going to be stronger. I'm going to be leaner. That stuff's great, and it's fantastic to keep that up, that continuous improvement. However, with continuous improvement, if we don't realize and position ourselves where we're meant to be, as in now, then that potential can get confused with what we're meant to have right now. And this can cause body dysmorphia. Now, if you've suffered with body dysmorphia, you'll understand the ramifications it can have. I'm going to tell you a short story about how this happened in my life. When I was younger, I was very out of shape, quite chubby and whatnot, and I used to get picked on a little bit. I remember I went one time, I got invited to the swimming pool, my local swimming pool, by a couple friends. Now, I never wanted to take my top off, of course. I didn't even wear like tight fitting clothing. I'd wear baggy clothing on purpose so that nobody could see my physique, because I'd always get called chubby or fat or whatever. And this would have a real deep impact on me. Now, you're probably thinking, why'd you agree to go swimming? I didn't really. I felt quite peer pressured. So I went there, and so we're all in the change room. There's 3 of us. We're in the change room, and the realization came over me suddenly, and I realized right now in this moment, I have to take my top off in order to get in that pool. And the amount of excuses, reasons why, or like the only thing I'm thinking about is how can I get out of this situation instead of how can I be present and enjoy this moment with my friends. Why? Because of the body dysmorphia, because of the way that I looked at myself based on other people's opinions. Anyways, long story short, I think I was at 10 or 11, but I've ended up keeping my top on. I'm coming up with this excuse and saying I have bad spots on my back. The doctor said I have to keep my top on. I've ended up going into the swimming pool. There's girls there from my school as well. And I've got my top on. Now, at that age, I mean, we can come up with lies and just say stuff and it sort of, maybe we can brush past it. But no one was letting it brush past, saying, why? Like, why? Like, really trying to understand. And I just stuck with it. I said, because I've got spots on my back, I've got a medical condition or whatever. There was nothing wrong with me, of course. But this body dysmorphia, I'm going to circle it again, was so powerful, such a stronghold that I couldn't let it go. And that stayed with me for years and years and years. And I left that swimming pool hour, 2 hours later, thinking to myself, even at that age, thinking to myself, I'm not sure that's normal. I'm not sure that I'm meant to feel this crippling feeling for how I look. Surely there's a way to fix this. Now, later down the line, that then caused an obsession with getting in shape, building muscle, cutting fat, whatever it is. And I experienced that on the other end of the spectrum. So even when I was in good shape, I would look at myself and say, you're not enough. You need to do this. You need to fix this. No, that part of your body, you need to change this and whatnot. And that's when I realized body dysmorphia is not about the external and how we actually present, but it's about how we view ourselves, our self-perception. And there's a perfect balance of this, which we're going to get onto. Boom. So we're going to get onto how do we overcome it? How do we overcome body dysmorphia? And there's a couple answers. There's 2 answers to this. And this is the truth. And this is something that I wish somebody sat me down and told me, Alf, look, this is the honest truth about how you get over this thing. So, there's 2 paths. First of all, if we look at ourselves and we're not too pleased with what we see in the mirror, there is a chance that could be rational. So we have to ask ourselves, is it rational? Like, am I proud of myself? Do I look in the mirror and actually think, no, do you know what? Regardless of my genetics, do I actually try? Do I go to the gym? Do I attempt to do the thing? Do I push myself? Do I try to eat the right things? Do I do this? Is this irrational or is it rational? Now, the answer might be full focus on input. Because when we ask ourselves this question, and again, guys, this is not an easy question to ask ourselves. This can take years. It can feel really, really dark. And most of the time, this is the reason why we don't want to go to those depths, because they hurt. Because we have to accept, this might be because of me. I might be feeling this way because of me. And I'm actually not trying. And maybe this body dysmorphia is actually a signpost to put a little bit more effort into my health. And that's why I reached this point here where I was actually a semi-pro footballer in this picture. And I took a picture of myself and I said, Alf, do you know what, mate? You're not actually putting in the effort. You're not looking good, man. But it was the realization of that which led me to this. And that leads me on to the second answer of body dysmorphia. Well, how do we overcome it? It may be irrational. Now, what I mean by rational is because everything is rational in our mind. Even the irrational becomes rational because we rationalize it, which simply means telling rational lies. Anyways, it may have been irrational. Now, I look at myself now, and in this picture, that's me a couple of days ago. And for me to look at myself and say I'm not in good shape would be irrational, because I clearly am. However, a bodybuilder, exactly the same process. They look at themselves and they're like, I'm in good shape, I could be better. And that causes the body dysmorphia. It's the comparison. So what we need to do in this time, the best way to understand whether it's irrational or rational is based on our input. Again, I said it in the first one, full focus on input. Are you waking up at the time you're meant to wake up? Are you training at the amount of times that you said you're going to train? Is your training getting better? Are you lifting heavier? Are you lifting for more? Is your cardiovascular endurance better? Can you run for longer? How many times a week are you cheating on your nutrition plan? Are you cheating? Do you have a nutrition plan? And we're just shooting in the dark. If that's the case, then we need to reconnect, reflect. What are we actually doing? Because if your input is in alignment with the goal and you're actually doing the things you're meant to do, well, suddenly this body dysmorphia is going to start to quieten when your full focus is on input. And that leads me to this picture. As I said, recently I've been going on a little bit of a cut where I've been shredding down. I just went on a bulk cycle. Now I'm cutting a little bit. I'm just trying to cut down. I'm leaning down. I looked at myself. I look at myself in the mirror, and I've got to the point where two answers come to me. First of all, it's, well done, Alf. You're training well. You're working hard. You're doing your thing. And if that's you, well done. And if it's not you, you can do it. Like you're going to be able to do it. But what I would say is, I also got to the point where I'm looking at myself, and I'll look at myself in the mirror and I'll be like, right, cool, you're doing great. However, you know you can improve, man. Like, you can get better. Like there's areas you can improve. Like I'll look at my lower chest. I'll look at my lower abdominals here. I'll look at and I'm not saying you're not worthy because of this. What I am saying is, bro, you're doing really well, but these are now some areas that you can do even better. And it's just that reframe which has enabled me to be a lot more comfortable and happy with myself, which has quietened down this voice of body dysmorphia. Now, if you are somebody who suffers with this, I know how it feels. But what I want to say is there are two answers to this. And you know deep down what one it is. It's either full focus on input. Maybe you're not sticking to your promises. Maybe you know that you're just showing up to the gym as a formality and you're not actually training as you know you can. Maybe you're cheating on your meals most days. Maybe you haven't even got a nutrition plan. If you don't know what you're doing, I'm going to put a link below. I've got a free guide that can give you an understanding of like the base level when it comes to training and nutrition. That's going to help you. Click on that, follow it, it's free. But if you are doing all of those things and you're smashing it, that's self-talk, man. Reconnect, reflect. Flipping out. Bro, you went to the gym 6 times this week. You've cheated once or not at all. And then you move it into the category of, do you know what, mate? This is actually irrational. This is irrational, me thinking I'm out of shape. And you start telling yourself that. The tongue is very powerful. The way you speak about yourself will manifest things. But Bruce Lee once said, don't joke about yourself. The body doesn't know the difference. Be kind to yourself. On either ends of this spectrum, whether you are not doing the work or whether you are doing the work, be kind to yourself. However, your action should align with the answer. If it's rational, your body dysmorphia is rational and you're not happy with how you look, it may be based on inputs, full focus on inputs. However, if it's irrational, then full focus needs to be on reconnecting and reflecting and actually giving yourself some praise on the small wins. Track the small wins. I hope that helps you overcome. I like drawing. There we go. But yeah, guys, until the next one, I hope that's helped.